All right, let's kick off the day. Pretty interesting start to the day, obviously, with pretty aggressive kind of downside moves that we've been seeing. I think probably, what's the best way of phrasing this? Probably caught a lot of people out because of the reaction that we saw yesterday to the lows. So we said yesterday, you know, important that BTC bounced from the lows, and we saw the bounce. We saw us hold on to support. We saw a relatively good dip down on the daily with a great recovery here. When we look here, and we've just seen continuation today to the downside. All right, so that's been the kind of disappointing thing so far. Is the reaction here was very good, and the reaction here is obviously very poor. We've had another load of news come through. We've also had the indication that Saylor has rebought more BTC at 37,000, so it's like immediately 60 million underwater. Just a really odd sequence of events this morning. First thing to kind of bring up is there's no real surprise that we ended up dipping lower. So on stream last night, I was very clear about a couple of things that happened on the lower time frame bounce. And ETH is actually the better example, so let's swap over to ETH first. So what happened yesterday on ETH was a very, very strong move up, very aggressive off the lows. It recovered better than BTC. This is kind of the range here, the range bottom. And what we did on ETH is we drove very aggressively to the upside back into this cluster of highs here and took out the majority of stops in this region before continuing back down. So this is actually just a very aggressive kind of weekend move here. You can see it on the hourly. We slap into all of the liquidity here and drive out the stops, and then we eventually turn around and continue in the direction of the trend. So the most important thing that you can continue to keep in mind in this region is two things. Right? So there's two things that are very important to keep in mind. Number one is the trend is down. Never forget that. The trend is down. There is no uptrend. There is no uptrend on BTC, on ETH, on your alt. They are downtrending markets. Therefore, we would always expect upside moves to be weak, downside moves to be stronger. Hence why we would always look at positioning long, short over long in regions like this. Okay? So always keep that in mind. And then the second thing is that there's really no rush to do anything. So once again, referring back to the comments that I made when I was away this weekend, and I just put the message in chat to say, remember to keep your mentality in check. Right? Stop buying because you think certain things are happening, or somebody tweets that they think it's the bottom and you believe them, or we see a small V-shaped bounce on the hourly chart and you determine that's enough for a macro bottom. Okay, the reality of the situation is, and I will continue to reiterate this, you want to buy strength. So fuck everything that isn't showing strength. We don't care about sniping entries because it's just an absolute fallacy. We think about buying low. The truth is you'll be stopped out, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times trying to buy low. And somebody who decides to wait until strength is shown will probably not be stopped out. They'll probably just buy. They'll buy into the strength. They'll buy when the market structure shifts. And they'll just ride the fresh trend. So you think, by trying to position low, by the time all your stop outs have occurred, the entry from getting in higher is completely negated. So all you're doing is putting your capital at risk by trying to buy into the sell-offs, by trying to buy the lows. You're just putting your capital at risk. And there's nothing that's really indicative that your position is going to be safe. Like today, it's a brutal sell-off again. A lot of people were advocating being buyers last night. It's a brutal sell-off again. You have to remember downtrend, range, buy strength. We don't need to put our capital at risk. We want to preserve capital. We want to buy when the market's strong again. So what I'm using on here at the moment are Cuban's reversion bands. Very, very helpful on a higher time frame. So if we look at the reversion bands here, right, they're very helpful on a higher time frame. They give us an indication of when the market's kind of overheated. They give us a midpoint that we would expect to see a reversion back to, and then we we get to look for buy and sell areas, you know, just using the outside and the extremes of the band. So what you can see here obviously is, you know, a huge aggression shown by ETH, and this midpoint here just becomes the buy region. You can see on the daily, this midpoint here just becomes the buy region, buy region, buy region, moves higher. Then once we break down through this convincingly, okay, this region now becomes the sell region. So we sell here, we'll probably sell here, right? We'll sell here. Now we're looking for ETH to go ahead and hit into this bottom band. And it's disgusting when we start looking at things like this, because these reversion bands have actually been pretty damn effective, especially on the higher time frame. So when we look at this, we can see clearly now that this midpoint here is where the bounce is kind of, you know, reverted back to. This has been one of the natural reversion points for price. We've held up underneath here and started selling off again. Now we're exiting the bottom of the range potentially on this daily. So we're waiting to see, number one, how does this daily close? Are we going to close this red and are we going to break down? And if we do, then we're looking for the bottom of this band. Now one great setup we look for in regions like this is we look for a touch, we look for a bounce, and we look for a deeper dive that forms a divergence. This is a great higher time frame swing setup. So that's primarily what I'm looking for right now. So I want to see us get down here. Now, the scary thing is, for a lot of people, is the bottom of this band, or the second region of this band here, this dark green, is triple digits again. It's 900. We know that underneath here, we know around the 750s, 760s, it's an interesting region. And so that's the gross thing when we're looking at ETH at the moment. Still potentially considerable pain to come. But right now, this is just giving us a basis. It's just giving us a basis. What we're really focusing is the range. If we break the range to the downside, then maybe we'll start looking down here. Let's take a look at BTC and look at what the same bands look like for BTC. Again, we can see bands perform pretty well. Midpoint here didn't quite make it all the way. Right, more aggression, ETH a little bit cleaner in that regard. Bottom of this band currently, 12,000. And we know that is a significant region for BTC. We know the 12,000 level is a significant one. We also know that 20,000 is significant, which should be the first major touch point into here. So the 20,000 is the midpoint of this first green layer here. And we also know here 23, 24,000 as well is potentially interesting, which would also touch us down here. So again, just like with ETH, this is important, because if this is consolidation, redistribution in here, then we expect to see power on a breakdown. I spoke about this a little on stream last night, where I said if we break down from the range, expect it to be blatantly obvious that we are breaking down from the range. Okay, it will be very fucking clear that this is a strong sell-off that is breaking out the bottom of the range. We're not going to kind of, you know, just casually dribble out of the bottom of the range here. We're gonna have impulse. We're gonna have some violence that breaks the bottom of this support and sends us lower. For now, we've still got 11.5 hours on the daily. We don't have New York online yet, and this is all up in the air on what's going to happen. So we're going to wait and see. The indicator again is Cuban's reversion bands. These are free on TradingView. They're very, very helpful for swing positions. Because again, they help us position, they help us ride longer term trends, and then they help us give us an idea of where kind of worst case scenario is. You know, and this happened over here. This happened over here. Okay. So this region was the March sell-off, and a perfect usage of how these reversion bands work. And this deep touch into 3750. Very, very good. Very aggressive. And then obviously sustained bull run from here. So we're just going to keep an eye on Cuban's bands. You know, we can see for other things as well. Alice hasn't got enough data to produce anything valuable. Let's take a look at Link as an example and see what Link gives us. Yeah, so we can see on Link here as well. Okay, we see you getting these touches down here. See down here getting the big touches back in March. And now if we get another sell-off from this region, what are we looking at for Link? Back down to $6, $7, $8. We've already had one tap in here at 15. So just be aware that, you know, something like this can be very helpful, because what it does is it shows you from past history that even though those targets, $6, $7, $8, seem ridiculous at this point in time, they seem harder to believe, they have happened previously. And people had exactly the same thoughts previously. Right, absolutely the same thoughts previously. It can never happen, won't go that low. And it can. Right? It really can. So don't convince yourself otherwise. For now, I think today is a true spectator day. I don't think there's a lot to do today. You know, the market is so red. I don't think it's a day to be a buyer because it's too significant. You know, BTC potentially dropping out of the range is too significant to be a buyer. I don't think you can take a chance on longing BTC here. Potentially on some divergences. You potentially got, you know, a very small hourly one here, but, you know, not the cleanest. 4 hours trying to hold up here, but this largely looks as though it may end in continuation because we've had this rally in between, and we may get a drop down here. You know, we might get something that comes back up to here and just peels down. So for me, it's a very, very awkward day. I would absolutely urge you to think about protecting your capital on days like today. And I'm not saying, you know, you need to be selling everything and rushing into your ledger. I'm just saying be sensible. Don't start thinking that things are at a premium discount for you to go and be a buyer, because today's premium discount could be tomorrow's like local top. So just be very, very careful. Today is just a good day to just watch, see how the market behaves, have your ranges mapped out, see what the market conditions are going to bring us, because we've still got a long time left in the day and we've still got a very busy New York session to come. And we've still got that New York session in an hour's time. So just play things steadily. What we also know as well is that the indexes have kind of been okay today. We've had some chop. There's not really been a lot that's been happening during Asia. Right? This was Asia, this here, all this low volatility bullshit, and then we start to pick up once Europe gets online. And now we're starting to sell off a little bit over here, you know, with an hour left till New York. But be very aware that the indexes have not sold off. If the indexes sell off, then crypto is going to continue. So this is still where the interest is. Crypto has moved once again prior to any index movement. Now that could be because indexes simply aren't going to move and they're going to go sideways. It could be that indexes are going to trade higher and crypto is just acting independently. But I can still absolutely assure you that if traditional markets sell off, crypto will be affected. And if we're thinking about the impact and where we are currently in terms of the range, and especially at the range lows and potentially breaking out on the higher time frame, if SPX, NQ start to dump, we are going to go lower. So just be aware of that. Be careful on days like today. Like I said, do not over risk. It really is not worth it. If you don't have any skin in the game on days like today, you can sit back and watch and enjoy. You can enjoy the market selling lower. You can get excited about potentially getting bids filled lower. Alright, so good luck today. I'll catch up later.